Now, if it's not hard enough already for the poor and the young to find a home that they can afford to buy or even rent, have you seen what's happening to house prices? Have you seen the queues in New South Wales in particular outside, flats or apartments going to rent? People, oh, please be me. At this very time, the New South Wales government is considering a new law it's drawn up to crack down on people using their caravan as a home on private property. Now, under this proposed law, you can't keep your caravan plugged into the power and the water on private properties for more than 6 months without getting your council to approve a development application. Same if this caravan or relocatable home, it applies to them too, is bigger than 20 square metres. And why? Why this sudden crackdown? Well, the New South Wales Planning Minister struggled to answer that on 2GB, making it sound like the government is just, I don't know, poking its nose into your business.
Because it's the call on services. It's also about making sure that we've got not mismatched and arbitrary restrictions in place, making sure that there's consistency between secondary dwellings and what requires a DA more generally and what might be a complying development certificate.
Oh, we can't have inconsistencies and mismatches. Oh no, we've got to have all those pencils lined up straight. Joining me is someone who will be hurt by this proposed law, Andre Hilliger. Andre, thank you so much for your time. How would this proposed law affect you and your wife?
Well, may I start by saying that there's 3 of us who live in a van home. It's like a little caravan. It's about 60 square. And the 3 of us is my wife, myself, and my wife's mother, who's at the moment 92 years old. We managed to use our pension fund just to buy a house, little house as it is there. That's all we could afford. We live on my son's property and we pay our way there. So basically the pension that we do get, we use for electricity, food, and all the other little bits and pieces that we have. How would it affect us if it all went through? It's really a difficult thing to say, because if we can't use the house, what do we do with the house? We'd then need to sell the house, and the house would then be, you'd have to have council approval for the house, which would then up the cost. And there's quite a few people, as myself, in this position where you can't really afford to go the extra mile, when especially there's 3 old people who are trying to do their own thing. Where would we go? Social housing? I don't think there's enough of that anyway. So we couldn't go to social housing. We could live in a tent. It'd be very cold or hot, whatever the case might be. It would not be comfortable. We would not have a toilet in there. We would not have a shower in there. So we'd then have to go to a campsite where they provide all that. And it's rather difficult to do that. Now, I must say, in our little street, I'm from Yass, in our little street in Yass, there are actually 4 people who have this type of housing behind the official house. 3 out of the 4 are people who are in my position, who wouldn't be able to afford to live anywhere else but in a little house like that.
Well, we appreciate, I know you feel strongly about this. You've driven all the way from Yass to our studio in Sydney to have your say on this. To be clear, you live in a relocatable home. It applies to them too. It's like a glorified caravan in a sense. But what about the reasons I've heard given for this potential crackdown, that your caravan or relocatable home or mobile home might be an eyesore maybe, or I know you might end up with too many people on one block of land, or what about services, planning, or the fire risk? What about all that?
Well, in my case, there's not much of that holds true, because we live in a 25-acre property. My son owns the property, so it's not an eyesore. You can't even see the van home from the street. That's how far down it is. It's not an eyesore at all, and it's actually quite a nice little home to look at. We've managed to put some veggie beds in and some gardens, so it all looks good. I don't know, planning permission, does it really need planning permission? I think this is all, it all complicates the whole issue. And people in my position... Sorry?
No, and Andrew, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like public servants trying to fix a problem that not many people are upset about, but they'll sure upset people when they get around to fixing it. Andrea Hilliger, look, thank you so much indeed for taking the time to come down and tell us about this, because I think this, unless there's a better explanation, the Planning Minister didn't give it, let us hear a better explanation for this crackdown. But otherwise, let us hope
I really don't know, because this little house that we live in is really well made, it's well produced, it lives by the standards for the caravan. I don't know what more we can do.